This video is sponsored by War Thunder. More about them shortly. Ark is a game with currently over 14 unique maps, ranging from a small island in the middle of the ocean to an interstellar lifeboat traveling throughout the entire solar system that has also been corrupted by an evil scientist turned unkillable tentacle monster that somehow has the power to hack your Nokia flip phone.
Bang.
Have you come here to challenge me?
Did I also forget to mention the fact that more than half of these maps have been remade in the buttery smooth Unreal Engine 5, which almost entirely revamps the maps in every way, shape or form. Today I'm going to be doing my best to yap about each and every one of these maps in the same amount of time it takes you to watch roughly half an episode of Ark the animated series. Also, quick disclaimer, if the map has been remade in Ark Ascended, I'll most likely be talking about the newer version as opposed to the ASE version, unless I deem a change between the two maps to be absolute hobsquabble. Starting off where most definitely you and every other pipsqueak beach bub who ever played this game began, and by far the most recognizable map in Ark, the island. This map was the very first map to grace Ark Survival Evolved all the way back in 2015, and to assure you're not being fooled by its name, this is most definitely an island. Now, if you're an Ark veteran or have severe mental instability, both of which I fall under the category of, you'll be among the handful of players who've played this map so much you can just about recognize every goddamn blade of grass if provided an image. Not only that, but we can just about memorize the locations of every single explorer note and how to run them, as well as insightful tips for farming such as the Meganura cave and the locations of nearly every resource in the game. To put it simply, this map is the GOAT! The GOAT! Not only because it's perfectly sized for players new and old alike, but it's essentially the default map for this entire franchise and pretty much built the foundations of Ark itself. And if you're planning to get into Ark for the first time, it's a canon event that you start on the island, just like how you'd season a steak before you cook it. 10 out of 10 map. I think we can all agree on this one. But before we get into the next map on the list, allow me to thank today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made. Enter the battlefield and take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to the fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. The game is available for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices, and speaking of, War Thunder now has an all-new mobile version available on iOS and Android, allowing you to take the battlefield even while taming a Brontosaurus. The mobile version features intuitive controls, impressive graphics, and the familiar massive multiplayer warfare and dynamic ground and sea battles with air support. Immerse yourself in the intense combat of War Thunder, where incredibly detailed vehicles, realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines of our time. Join a worldwide community of over 95 million players in epic PvP battles today, and delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder. With an unmatched wealth of high quality content to discover, there's simply no game better suited for fans of military history. If you're on PC or console and either are new to the game or haven't played in the last 6 months, you can use my links in the description or pinned comment to claim a huge bonus pack. That includes premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. Don't miss out and sign up today with my links below. Anyways, back to the list.
You have to listen to my call, Sammy, please. I beg you.
The Center. Arguably Ark's most controversial DLC map, simply due to the fact that it was Ark's second ever map, which was released by a modder who goes by the name Ben Evil Mr. Frank Burkhart. Other than its rough launch in ASA last year, you know, when Wildcard were like, here, have some fire kitties, while half the map was missing mesh. I and a lot of other players dislike the Center, not because of the way it looks, because in my opinion it's a beautiful looking map, but the way the map incorporates just way too much ocean, which just makes it an absolute mission to get anywhere without a good flyer. Underwater metal farming is the only better factor to this, but it is again overshadowed by the gigantic Shastasaurus, which is absolute dog shit. The Center, in my opinion, is one of the most forgettable DLC maps, and I wouldn't recommend playing on it to anybody getting into Ark.
What have you done? Scorched Earth.
Scorched Earth, or as I like to call it, the Sands of Arrakis, is quite a difficult map to say the least. Saying that doesn't necessarily make it bad. However, similar to Aberration, it perfectly incorporates new features and mechanics, ultimately creating a fresh survival experience from the other maps. Saying this, however, I'd probably have to say that Scorched Earth is my least played Ark map out of them all. Outside of some of the new creatures such as the Oasis or the Fassalo, most of anything on this map can be outright found in just about any community map, which is free for ASE players, with Ragnarok quite literally having a mini mini version of this map in the corner. This means I never really visit this map to tame anything because I can get whatever I want elsewhere without having to deal with heat stroke and surviving sandstorms. Despite that, however, speaking entirely from the point of view of the map itself, it actually has a lot of content to offer and an all-round banging map if you're looking for a fresh Ark experience. But to the rest of the Ark players, this will most likely be the last map you'll need to be visiting for anything.
You never met Harkonnens before. They're not human, they're brutal!
Speaking of Ragnarok, that is the next map on our list. Released to Ark Survival Evolved all the way back on June 12, 2017, Ragnarok was a truly revolutionary map, boasting a similar resemblance to the island at a much grander scale, featuring more diverse biomes such as canyons, a volcano, highlands, and even a desert which featured many creatures from the previously released Scorched Earth for absolutely free. Additionally, this map also introduced a new fan favorite flyer, the Griffin, which at the time was a real game changer given its dive bombing capabilities. The map features a mix between a Nordic and medieval theme with the inclusion of castles, bridges, and even a dungeon. And that's not even to mention the ridiculous Souls-like desert dungeon that you'll have to take over an hour to complete while watching a YouTube tutorial just to obtain some damn artifacts. With all that being said though, Ragnarok to this day is by far the most beloved non-canon map in Ark history, and with its release for ASA, map creators Jackson Lawrence and Excited Kangaroo did not let us down reimagining this map in all its beauty. If I had to rank all community developed maps, this one definitely takes the cake. However, a map that absolutely, wink wink, takes the cake for me over all Ark maps as a whole is, you guessed it, now, I don't know what was happening at Studio Wildcard when they thought of this map, but my goodness did they absolutely cook hard here. Released later in 2017, Aberration is the next canon map to follow Scorched Earth, and once again redefines the aspect of survival for these games to a whole new level. Aberration is a mostly underground map and acts entirely like a cave, meaning just about every flyer in the game is a no-go. Despite that, however, the map features an abundance of new and unique creatures and items to collect. These can all be found throughout the plethora of biomes, which range from a somewhat peaceful fertile lake to the surface wasteland, which is completely exposed to the heat elements of the sun, housing alien abominations such as the Reaper, which is just like a xenomorph and can impregnate you, birthing their own demon spawn. Between the two biomes, there are also beautiful yet deadly zones such as the bioluminescent forest, which truly encapsulates the map's aesthetics. However, that being said, there is some controversy regarding this map's implementation to UE5, which I will get into a moment after I'm done glazing the absolutely incredible boss fight that is Rockwell in all his voiced over glory by the beautiful man himself, David Tennant, who's not only been Doctor Who but also in Harry Potter. The way this map utilizes items and creatures such as light pets to force away mobs from constantly attacking you and progressing the map too fast is absolutely genius, and makes this map difficult in an entirely new way, which I and many other players are all for. Not to mention the soundtrack for this map, which is simply just mwah. But with all that being said, the late release of this map to Ark Ascended was quite disappointing to say the least. Despite the delays, which happens with basically every map to this point, once the map came out, it wasn't as shiny and beautiful as we were all expecting, with many of the community's reactions being quite underwhelming considering the potential of Unreal Engine 5's lighting. Another benefactor of the disappointment was also the implementation of pyromanes in the bioluminescent biomes. Although these creatures are powerful and quite easy to tame, given you spent money on them, they're incredibly annoying to kill and don't even provide anything upon death. Pair that with their appearance really just makes you wonder why they are there in the first place, with Rascalak being particularly vocal about the fact that they simply don't fit there at all. I know Wildcard needs to somehow make money out of these once paid DLC maps, but perhaps placing these guys on the surface was a better fit for these guys. But with all the controversy out of the way, this map still holds up incredibly well, and I cannot recommend it enough to literally anyone to start fresh on this map if you want an entirely new and unique Ark survival experience. After hearing that, you may think Aberration would be hard to top, but I'm here to tell you that you are partially right. Extinction is an awesome map through and through, but outside of the majority of the map featuring all hostile enemy biomes, it doesn't really encompass that riveting gameplay style change that both Scorched Earth and Aberration have. Despite that, however, Extinction is still to this day what I'd say to be one of my top 3 maps in this entire franchise, simply due to the fact that it's an incredibly created map. It really pulls off the final chapter of the main game well, showcasing that this is what remains of Earth after a dreadful war. Oh, and also here's a frickin' mech that you can pilot. Now go kill 4 kaijus. Now this This map for me is quite difficult compared to the rest, as you're quite literally fighting zombie pteranodons constantly, but it's also just mayhem almost anywhere except for the sunken forest. If you're quite late game and looking to farm some element, however, this map is the place to be, providing just that through the slew of veins across the wasteland. This map also has one of the most badass soundtracks to it as well. I also thought I'd mention that Wildcard did an amazing job tweaking certain elements to this map to make it just a little bit harder in ASA, implementing the King Titan as a world boss who roams around every once in a while, and an actual deadly meteor shower capable of killing you and all your tames. Good job, Wildcard. Taking a break now from Ark's canon timeline, we move back to another somewhat beloved community map, Valguero. Valguero. I don't know how to pronounce this, and I'm not going to try. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not a huge fan of this map at all. Now, don't get me wrong, Valguero hasn't released... I pronounced it differently that second time. Now, don't get me wrong, Valguero hasn't yet released to ASA as the time of recording this video, and I believe this video may very well go out on the release of Valguero. So I'll let the comments handle the review for this one. But for me, the map is simply just quite boring and forgetful in comparison to a lot of the other community maps. It's basically the same repeated rocky mountain biome for the whole map, and it doesn't really stick with me. What does stick with me, and more prominently the dragon, however, is the inclusion of the beloved Deinonychus, which is essentially just a feathery raptor on steroids, which can quite literally take down any large creature with ease. It is through these guys which I believe brings the most traffic through this map, and rightfully so, as they are a great implementation to the game. Other than that, the underground aberrant zone is quite nice to have on a free map, and the boss fight isn't that bad in my opinion. So I'd definitely give this map a try if you dig open land for compounds and base building.
Because it looks like you're inside a simulation. Inside a simulation.
Moving forth to our first somewhat controversial Ark map, Genesis Part 1. Now, around when this map was released was when I was really starting to get into Ark, and let me tell you, this map confused me quite a bit. First of all, I'd like to apologize to you guys, as I have said on a few occasions that this map is quite easy. This was because I had only played with survivors I had really good tames with, so I just breezed through everything I needed with ease. But let me tell you that I understand now how much of a nightmare this map is, especially when on a new character. It should be a crime to have the easiest spawn in the game inside of what is essentially a swamp biome. And to any viewers who haven't played Ark, is basically hell. And to give my 2 cents into this, I am a strong non-believer for on-demand teleport maps, as I believe it takes the immersion out of survival, and although it fits on most of this map being a whole simulation or whatever, I just can't help but feel restricted by the map locking zones through a teleportation system. And I haven't even begun talking about how I feel about the HLNA and minigame systems. I mean, seriously, a shop where I can buy anything I want by completing a time trial? What is happening? Not to mention that still to this day, most of these are buggy beyond comprehension, and if you want to get anywhere through this map, have fun forcing yourself to do these. Not that it's worth it, however, because I'd have to say that Master Controller Rockwell is the single worst boss fight in the entire game. It makes me want to rip my eyeballs out and blindly lobotomize myself. Despite that, however, I'd say that Gen 1 is the most forgotten lore map out of them all, simply due to the fact that it doesn't really offer too much outside of cool dino variations and a couple of really interesting tames. Still probably the last I'd play out of all the canon maps. Between the 2-part Genesis series, however, we were gifted with another community map, Crystal Isles. Immediately, you'll notice that the saturation is cranked higher because the colors really pop, and so will your retinas. Otherwise, I do feel as if this map is quite cluttered and at times a little too overkill with the floating islands, and I just don't think it blends as well compared to Ragnarok or Valguero. It does come with my favorite variant of Wyvern, however. Oh, how I miss the beloved Blood Wyvern, as well as the Tropionathus, which is just a really weird tame. I hope with its implementation into ASA, however, the boss fight gets a little bit more, considering Ragnarok now has an Ice Wyvern as a boss, which would make the Crystal Wyvern Queen a little too repetitive for my liking. Overall, a pretty cool standalone map, and I can't wait for my PC to explode when this releases to Unreal Engine 5.
Was that the bite of 87?
And closing off Ark Survival Evolved's official lore timeline, for now, we have Genesis Part 2, a map that was released with the most amount of controversy, as it seemed to be a little pay to win, quite literally spawning people who had purchased this map in with a tech suit. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a fan of the Federation exosuit, I mean, just look at me, but I'll have to admit this was just a blatant cash grab, even if you can't bring them into other maps. Playing on this map feels like I'm playing a dinosaur discovery game rather than a survival game. If something challenges me, I'll just use the Iron Man suit to fly away at no cost of element. Additionally, this map also includes includes these goddamn HLNA minigames, which for fuck's sake, can we please never do this again. They're fun in a sort of way for their own separate thing, but my god, if I have to go to this mandatory painful progress and ascend it again, I'm gonna lose it. The boss battle on this map is also quite underwhelming in my opinion. Not the atmosphere of it, just because it's Rockwell and everything revolving it is absolutely awesome, but the fight itself is just really laggy, cluttery, and similar to the Master Controller, hard to tell what is going on most of the time. Speaking of everything revolving around this boss, however, I do actually really like the atmosphere of this map. Unlike Genesis 1, this map really stands out with its design. I love the biomes and the feeling of space, and Wildcard did a great job creating this map and finishing off the storyline of Rockwell and Helena. For now. Overall, despite everything I said, I don't actually mind this map, and if you can't really be bothered facing most of the challenges that Ark as a survival game throws at you, then play this map. Otherwise, I would not recommend it as a new player.
Your final service. 你手臂夠對有方。
Following the closure of Ark's story, we were given the Lost Island shortly afterwards. And I must say, this map has got to be the most forgotten map in Ark history. I'm sorry. I haven't heard of too many people who have properly played this map and thoroughly enjoyed it, which is quite a surprise considering it offers 3 new tames, being the Dinopithecus, Sonomicrops, which is actually really good, and the very easily tameable Amargasaurus. Although this map follows close resemblance to Crystal Isles, focusing on a larger variant of a newly established creature, I really dig the Ziggurat vibes this map lets off. Although to me, nothing is distinct about this map compared to every other community map, so I'm sorry. And last but certainly not least, we have Fjordur. And let me tell you, despite what I said about the teleportation system before, this map has to be one of the most unique and greatest community maps of all time. Most of my audience is American, so I'll explain it in US terminology. If Ark map were burgers, Ragnarok would be a Big Mac, and Fjordur would be a double quarter pounder with cheese. Both amazing maps, except Fjordur just provides a little bit of extra taste, being released as what I'll declare as ASE's final map. The map also follows the ancient Norse mythology theme and takes it to a whole new level. Essentially, Fjordur mashes together nearly every creature from every Ark map all into one, with bosses being no exception, including the Broodmother, Megapithecus, and Dragon, as well as 4 new bosses, Baylor, Haitian Skull, Steinbjorn, and Fenrir. Upon the completion of all these, you'll basically unlock the most badass and rare weapon in the entire game, literally being Mjolnir itself. And I haven't even begun to mention the insanely good creatures that were added to this update, like the Fjordhawk, Andrewsarchus, and Desmodus. If you really want to play Ark at its fullest, I can't recommend this map enough, because it literally has everything you need on it. Venturing forth onto our first ASA exclusive map, we have another surprisingly controversial one, Astraeos. Now, first of all, this map is gigantic, actually being the biggest map in Ark at the very minute, encompassing more than 3 times the size of the island, Scorched Earth, and Extinction. First of all, I think it'd be good if I got some of the controversy out of the way. Essentially, at the minute, since its release, Astraeos was delivered to us as the first paid map for ASA. The catch is that the map isn't yet completed. This caused a lot of players to get upset at Wildcard and created Nakatis for making us play something that is incomplete. On top of that, the map features a reskinned version of the Maywing, renamed to the Mayguana, which was introduced in Genesis Part 2 as an incredibly useful tame for growing babies. Although I've got to say I do agree with some of what people are saying, I do genuinely really enjoy my time on this map. This map also includes a slew of new bosses, which I'm going to try my best to name: Erymanthian and Calidonios, the Widowmaker, Thanatos, which is a reskinned world boss version of the King Titan, and Natrix, which is essentially Medusa and is the most unreasonably difficult boss in the entire game. Astraeos follows a similar layout to Fjordur, except with a Greek mythology spin to it this time, and I can't help but find this map really beautiful and fun to explore. So, as an ASA player, I'd highly recommend giving this map a try if you haven't already, as I believe it's worth your money, especially coming from a community creator, as well as I actually kind of like the fact that the map is growing more and more over time. Akortica is a map that was forcefully released to the world by Evil Publishing Corporation Snell Games. The map was released against the developers of Ark Studio Wildcard by a team of understaffed and underprepared individuals from a small indie studio. Those said publishers then released a blatant and abhorrent AI trailer, as well as a bunch of other baloney, which I have a whole video on, so go watch that. Anyways, TLDR, don't ever buy this map. I think it's just best we pretend it never existed. And that was every Ark map explained by yours truly. I hope this video gave you some deeper insight into these maps and hopefully helped some of you decide on which ones to choose from. And once again, I'd like to give a big thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Remember to use my links in the pinned comment or description to sign up today and play for free across PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile. Those of you who are new or haven't played for over 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across PC and console, including premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of valid vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. Sign up today. Anyways, I've got to get back to preparing myself to steal some Deinonychus eggs.